Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the redacted year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Engel, a.k.a. Moton Noah. Nick, why is the date redacted? Are you Dick Cheney all of a sudden? It's confidential, it's classified, it's sealed and signed. She's not my lover like Billie Jean, but the kid is mine. Why can't we know what the date is? Some of you are cavemen. How are you supposed to know what the date is if Nick won't tell you what it is? Well, I don't know when this is going to come out. I told you guys that it was going to be a Friday episode because that's what it was supposed to be. But the truth is that if I get too damn excited about this and the episode ends up being awesome, there is zero chance that I end up waiting until Friday. So if you are somebody who relies on this program to get you through your Mondays and your Fridays, your commute to work, your walk to class, your wake and bake, whatever it is that some of you guys do when you consume this show. If you want to wait till Friday, turn it off right now. Turn it off right now. The odds are, though, that I'm going to release this one early. Part of it is actually because I was so disappointed in the way that Monday's show went that I felt like I needed to immediately make up for it and do whatever I could to supplement the poor 60 minutes that I provided for you on Monday, which is the other piece of this. You're looking at the times, not the timestamps, but the duration of this episode, and you're thinking to yourself, what? You're like, huh? Like, why this is not an hour? This is like a coping 45 minutes. We're doing one thing today, all right? My schedule is so jam-packed this week. I have like 2 days to do everything that I need to do while also taking care of my son, and then we're off to the races and we're going home. We're going back to Michigan. In like a 24-hour span, I'm expecting to get 5 videos in total from Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets, that I got to get in the can, and then I have to edit. Boom, 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 boom. I got to get them out as fast as I can, all right? I already knocked out 2 of them today. I'm expecting to get 3 on Tuesday. We'll see how it goes. I just don't know. I wanted to not strike iron while it was hot. I'm in on the ground floor of something, folks. I got to tell you something. I got to be honest with you. I don't take a ton of, this isn't even a victory lap. Like, I don't give myself credit for anything. I do not pat myself on the back, but I'm addicted to making pyramids, I think, is what I've learned about myself. I think maybe I've discovered the new way that as a culture that we will move forward ranking things. For a while it was tier lists. Oh, this is S tier. Oh, this is F tier. Oh, this stinks. Boo. Tomato, tomato, tomato. F tier. Boo. Then there was this semi-pivot to Mount Rushmores, depending on the circles that you consume content in. Mount Rushmores is a big one. I think pyramids might be it. I think it might be it. And I legitimately feel like it's the gold rush. Nobody else is in California right now. It's just me. I'm waiting for all the prospectors to show up. But guess what? I'm the OG. I'm the number one. So as it stands, I'm not seeing anybody else out there doing pyramids. All right? But that's what we're doing here today. We will be doing, you already saw the title. We're going to be doing the Coping Tower, an NBA Conspyramid. But before we get to that, let's do a little bit of setup. You guys know how it goes around here. Got to do a little bit of foreplay before I get you guys, right into it. I was going to make a baby oil joke. The P. Diddy stuff just isn't funny to me. I don't know why. I'm just not interested in it. I think it's because... am I really going to... Here's why I'm not that interested in the P. Diddy controversy right now. Are we calling it a controversy? It's more like he's a fucking federal criminal, like potentially all-time criminal. Until we hear names, I think is what I'm getting at here. If I wanted to really water this down, until we start to hear names, we start to hear anecdotes, we start to really see this guy crack under pressure and start to snitch, I'm not going to care. You know what I mean? There is the people, there's already a contingency of people out there, the same way that there was for R. Kelly, where they're like, free P. Diddy, like he didn't do that shit. We don't even know what he did yet, technically, right? Like human trafficking is the sort of like soft allegation out there, or like coercion, I guess is maybe what the other one is. And he's having sex with a bunch of men at like these like sneaky, crazy Hollywood Hills parties. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I know as much as you do. And we just did the Coping Tower, an NBA Pyramid of Dumb. I wasn't on there. I was a glaring omission from that list, but hey, maybe I'm a dumb guy. I don't know. We'll see what goes on there. They put his ass on suicide watch. What are we doing? Even if he was, right? It's like, oh, well, Sounds like he's a pretty bad guy. I don't know. Let's not do this. Okay, folks, I did not consult anybody about this. We do conspiracies on this show. It's like in a lot of ways one of the extremities of the show that props it up as a whole, because through, one way or another, it seems like we always kind of circle back to conspiracies, whether it's through the political landscape or the media landscape or the sports landscape, which is the vehicle that we will be getting in today. I got like a 5,000 seater for all of you guys. There's room for all of you to get in on the conspiracies today. Now, unlike the Coping Tower and NBA an NBA Pyramid of Dumb, I'm not really looking for feedback on this one because this one is honestly just the conspiracies in the NBA that I like the most. And this isn't one that we're going to be keeping up with over time. It was just, hey, I needed to get an evergreen episode in the can. And again, hey man, we're probably not going to do the full 60. We're going to be doing one thing today. I just wanted to make sure that you had something before, I go on this vacation. So I didn't consult anybody. I knew I couldn't rely on my NBA YouTuber friends. I knew they would leave me out in the cold. I'm not mad about that, by the way. I want to emphasize that. I know I maybe said some stuff a couple episodes ago when we did the Pyramid of Dumb, and it maybe sounded like I was mad. I'm sure if I went back and looked at the VOD, it would sound like a guy who's mad. I wasn't mad about that, and I don't hold grudges. But that in mind, I didn't consult anybody about this because I knew nobody would fucking come through for me on this. Super happy for Alex Hoops getting to 100,000 subscribers, but I would have loved... I'm not mad about it. It doesn't matter. So what do you guys say? Are you along for the ride on this one? The Coping Hour presents The Coping Tower, an NBA Conspyramid. Now, as is customary, we're going to go over the tiers really quick for all of you who are using this as an audio experience. You don't have the visual aid, but it will be up on the screen for those of you who are curious. There are only 3 tiers for this one. The bottom tier, wow, that's fun, conspiracy. And that one is just like this is like maybe true. Like maybe this is true. I'm not really sure. But it's fun. The second tier, that for sure happened. Conspiracy. Yeah, this one is actually in the name. It's just shit that definitely happened. And it is also, it's like almost a conspiracy, but it's like somewhere between conspiracy and conjecture, Is that kind of the same thing now that I'm thinking about it? Because if it's conjecture, it's like ostensibly true. And if it's a conspiracy, well, if it's conspiracy, it doesn't have to be true in some ostensible way. It just might not even kind of be true. What's one that I could think of off the top of my head? Like people think that the Dems were the ones who ordered the hit on Trump back in July. I don't know. Well, no, not I don't know. Like I'm going to give credence to that because it's not real. I don't know what I meant by I don't know. We're learning more about this guy who did this shit in Florida in these last couple weeks. And the most recent thing that we learned is as of today, as of this recording at least, I'm taping this on September 23rd. This morning, it came out that guy gave one of his friends, an anonymous civilian is what the Washington Post called it. Shout out to Jeff Bezos. Reverse shout out to Jeff Bezos, actually. Fucking lib. He's not a lib. And I also, even if he was, I wouldn't be like, fucking lib. Chill, Nick. Get it out. What are you trying to say? Well, the guy in Florida who tried to kill Trump at his golf course gave his friend a box, and the friend didn't open months ago, and the friend didn't open the box until he found out that Ryan Routh, how do you say his last name? As soon as he saw that he got arrested, the friend opened the box and was like, what is in this box? What's in the box? On some real Brad Pitt shit, you know what I mean? Unintentional rhyme, I do that from time to time, Dr. Seuss in this news. And the guy had pre-written a letter where he was like, this was a failed assassination attempt. If anybody else can carry out the hit, I will pay you $150,000. But these federal agencies who are looking into this are like, this guy was broke. He didn't have $150,000, let alone 6 figures, let alone 3 figures to pay anybody anything. This guy was broke as fuck, but he was going to... so this was real? And then we are also learning with cell phone data that this guy was hardcore stalking Trump. And so the guy who sent in an email a week ago he was really, really trying to put on his thinking cap and be like, is JD Vance the one trying to kill Donald Trump? And we denounced that. We were like, this is dumb. JD Vance is a dumb guy. Now that we're receiving more information, honestly, respect to that guy because I really appreciated the attempt. It looks even worse now to think that Like, no, this guy was just absolutely nuts. Anyways, no, not anyways. We're doing conspiracies today. I can float on this for as long as I fucking want. That guy was wild. And the more that you read about it, the more information that comes out. We're like, oh shit, he was 100% going to try to kill his ass. But then it just didn't happen at all. And the Secret Service, as soon as they saw the rifle sticking out from the bushes, they bop, 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 tried to smoke his ass. Didn't work. He fled in like a sedan or something. Got like 40 miles north of Mar-a-Lago. And they got his ass. Huh. What does that look like if we zoom out? Because I'm thinking as I'm saying all of this of the international listeners. Where, you know, look, if like a Boris Johnson type character a couple of years ago was almost assassinated, I would have been all over it. And I would have been really in the weeds with it, you know. If like a Liz Truss, it would have been really hard for Liz Truss to almost get assassinated, though, because she held that seat for 2 weeks and they smoked her ass immediately. And then they were like, Rishi Sunak, we're actually going to go with Rishi Sunak because Liz Truss is a piece of shit and she sucks. And then she even turned into one of Trump's shills, by the way. She's like in America, like doing the thing that Rudy Giuliani did after the 2020 election, where he's in front of like a Four Seasons because he thought that he was booking a Four Seasons hotel venue, but he was actually booking like a Four Seasons landscaping venue. And so he was in front of this like really shitty garage, like being like, yeah, Donald Trump, yeah, he actually won this election, and anybody who thinks that he didn't is stupid as fuck. I grew up being like, look, this has been said 1,000 times, but I grew up being like Rudy Giuliani king because he was just like 9/11. I was the mayor during 9/11 and I owned that shit. And then he turned out to be one of Trump. It honestly just ended up making me look smarter because of what I said. This is neither here nor there because it does not matter. But what we said in the previous episode, what everybody else says is that Trump's cronies are political outcasts. They are social pariahs. When you have Liz Truss advocating on Trump's behalf, I'm dusting my hands and I'm having a hard time being like, this is like, how am I supposed to say that this isn't a wrap in November? Because I'm also seeing the political like attack ads on Kamala, and they're like during these college football games, during these NFL games, I'm taping this during Monday night. The Commanders are like shockingly, like they're smacking the shit out of the Bengals. And the score is not going to be indicative of like, hey, who knows how it's going to wrap up because the game's not over. But all of these commercials that are like about Kamala are like, she wants to have transgender immigrants conducting surgeries on like cats. And then they like cut up a bunch of clips of her saying shit that she's obviously not saying. But even the ones that are in favor of her like suck, and they're like not convincing at all. And it's just like, yeah, like we're probably gonna vote for her, but whatever. We don't need to. This isn't even conspiracy at this point. Now I'm just kind of talking about nothing and trying to. So why don't we stop doing the prologue, and why don't we just get into the meat and potatoes of today's program? The Coping Hour presents The Coping Tower, an NBA Conspyramid. Now, again, these are just my favorite conspiracies. Fuck, I already did the tiers, and then I completely derailed myself, and I went... Whatever, I already told you guys what the tiers were. So let's start this thing off, folks. Starting off on the, wow, that's fun, conspiracy bottom line. We got Gail Benson rigs the 2019 NBA draft. I've talked about this one a couple of times because I believe that this happened, but I don't believe it happened enough to put it in the that for sure happened conspiracy tier of the Conspyramid. So, okay, Nick, what's the story? Why don't you actually get to it? All right, so Anthony Davis is fresh off of wearing the "That's all, folks" t-shirt to close out the Pelicans regular season. And there are whispers around the league. It's an open secret that however it's facilitated between the Lakers and the Pelicans, Anthony Davis will be a Los Angeles Laker. Like, he's out of there. Sealed and signed. She's not my lover like Billie Jean, but the kid is mine. This is happening. While also at the same time, Gail Benson becomes a widow and is like left all of this shit. Didn't she get left the Saints too? I might be mistaken on that one, but hey, she owned the Pels at that time, became the majority owner. The Smoothie King Center, their lease is up. They're having lease issues. They can't come to an agreement on that front. New Orleans is a profitable market. They have a passionate fan base. There's a reason to keep a team there. The NBA doesn't want to see them go, but they can't figure things out again, with their lease, they're not going to get a new stadium built. And their biggest star, their most marketable guy, Anthony Davis, is about to bounce to Los Angeles? Fuck! What are we supposed to do about this? Oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to give the Pelicans, a team that won like 37 games and had like the 14th best odds at landing the number one pick in the 2019 NBA draft. Now, you might be scratching your head, and who was the number one pick in 2019? Why was this so consequential? It was fucking Zion Williamson. This was, for all intents and purposes, the biggest draft lottery since LeBron James. We hadn't seen a guy, I know LeBron didn't go to college, but we hadn't seen a guy coming out of college who had the star power the way that Zion Williamson did coming out of Duke. The guy was blowing out his sneakers in school. And it was, by the way, I don't know, this doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with anything, but I just want you all to go to, just Google, did Zion Williamson win a national championship at Duke? And then when you figure out that he didn't, figure out who he lost to in March Madness. Just Google that really quick. Find out who Zion Williamson lost to in March Madness. It was, I'll save you the Google, actually. Save you the 5G. It was Michigan State. Michigan State killed the boogeyman. We killed R.J. Barrett, I almost said Cassius Winston, Cam Reddish, and Zion Williamson. We beat that team. Now, to be fair, what was it the week prior that Duke almost smoked their game against like UCF or something? They were like shaky the entire tournament, and then they came up against Michigan State and it was wraps. Whoops, what happened there? Zion goes to the Pelicans. I'm still not over it. Now, that's not to say that I don't love the fit and that I don't love him like aesthetically in that uniform and that honestly it just like rules. The marriage just makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't bitter for a really long time because what the fuck? And then the other piece of this is, and this isn't, we're not going to be consistent about this, by the way, like disproving the conspiracy theories themselves. It's tricky with the NBA lottery when you want to point fingers and say, and cry conspiracy. Because it's like, yeah, dog, it's a lottery for a reason. The team that has the number one odds or tied the number one odds, you know, because nobody ever has the outright number one odds. It's like tied third best. I think at the time that this draft happened, it was the four worst teams is who had the tied for the top odds, I think is what it was. It's like, yeah, man, like this is what it's for, you know, is that tanking isn't super effective, but it can be effective. A team like the Pelicans can win. Yeah, they can. And they sure did, didn't they? Spent a lot of time on that one. Let's just blow past this next one because there's not that much to say. Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game didn't happen? Wow, that's fun. That's a fun conspiracy. Look, if there's one, there's two on here that are three on here, honestly, that are kind of like tales as old as time. And this is one of them. You know, that game happens in 1962. Wilt Chamberlain scores 100 points for the Philadelphia Warriors. And there's no footage of it. Like, TV just doesn't exist at the time. Radio broadcasts, like, kind of exist. They kind of exist in the way that it took, 16 years? 1988. We finally get this kind of recording. It was like a pocket recorder that a student reporter had covering the game. Came out in 1988. And he's like, wow, Wilt Chamberlain, 100 points. Wow, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? He's got like a transatlantic accent. It's not even that long ago, but fucking, he probably spoke like he was on the Titanic, you know? And people will tell you that it happened. I don't know. This kind of goes back, honestly, to something we were saying at the beginning about it's more, because this is honestly one of those conspiracies that people just kind of believed for a long time. They're like, yeah, he scored 100 points because people told us that it happened. But because we live in the 21st century in 2024, where we are the most paranoid that we've ever been as a culture internationally, it's very easy for us to find inconsistencies and to poke holes. And if you're an NBA fan, you're going to poke holes in this one. Did Wilt Chamberlain score 100 points? Probably. The reason that it's not higher than this and it's just like, wow, that's fun, is because, like, if the NBA came out tomorrow and said, hey, we lied about that shit. It didn't happen. He put up 100 shots, but he only scored 6 points. What would you do? Think about it. Like, lock in for a second. I'll give you a second. I'll let you think about it. I'll give you the prompt again. Adam Silver goes up to the podium and he says, clear as day, no lawyer speak. It's Adam Silver after all, right? No lawyer speak. We lied about that. We just wanted to inflate the national interest in the National Basketball Association. Wilt Chamberlain did not score 100 points. You guys were right. Think about it. I'll tell you what you're probably going to do. Move on to the next thing. You're going to say, wow, that's cool. And then you'll say, what else is happening in the news? Wow, they're still killing Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon in like the most James Bond way. It's fucking wild what they're doing, the IDF and this Mossad joint operation. So what happened? So Hezbollah is, we'll get back to the pyramid in a second. Hold on. So the Hezbollah terrorists are like, we don't trust Western technology. So we're not using phones for communication. We're using pagers and we're using walkie-talkies. And the IDF and Mossad are like, that's fine. That's chill. We'll just blow up all of your pagers, blow off a bunch of testicles. Grandma, I'm not being crass. That happened. The CCTV footage is wild. Dudes are just getting their testicles blown off. They're not like, yes, people died, but a lot of dudes are just getting their testicles blown off. It's like on some real Rui Hachimura shit. And then the next day, 24 hours later, they're like, oh, the pagers are all gone. Let's start blowing up some walkie-talkies. Okay. And then immediately after that, all of the remaining Hezbollah guys are like, hey, we need to have a meeting about this. We need to talk about this and figure out what our next steps are. And also, like, what the fuck is happening? And so they all go to this building and they all meet. And the IDF blows up the fucking building. If this isn't the most James Bond shit that you've ever heard in your life, look, I get it. A lot of you out there who are my age and you're as online as I am, you're a fucking staunchly opposed to the IDF. You're like, oh, these guys are fucking terrorists. Oh, Mossad is like the most vindictive intelligence agency in the world. I don't know what to tell you. This is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my fucking life, what they're doing in Lebanon right now. But let's get back to the thing. We were talking about Wilt Chamberlain, and then we started talking about terrorists getting their testicles blown off. So, okay, what's another, wow, that's fun, conspiracy? That the Mayans actually invented basketball? Now, if you've been around the block with this program, you know where this is coming from. If you don't know where this is coming from, if you haven't seen this, if you haven't heard about this, Jaylen Brown believes that the Mayans actually invented basketball and that Dr. James Naismith stole that shit. He was a culture vulture. No, that's not what happened. I thought it would be appropriate for me to actually do my due diligence for once and do some independent verification and figure out what was he actually talking about. Because if he's right about that, then that's actually going to be funny that I was shitting on him for so long and then it turns out that I was actually the asshole. I'm not, though. I'm not. Because what he's talking about is, fuck, I should look it up right now. It's called like Pokatok, P-O-K-A-T-O-K. And the game was basically like use your thighs and your hips and like your arms to like get a ball into like a rock hoop. And there were 3 teams on the field at the same time. And like in some roundabout bullshit way, if you water it down, I guess it's basketball. But it's like if soccer and basketball and like hockey had a baby. I guess motherfuckers were just like kicking a rubber ball into a rock. And that was basketball? It's not even the same picture.jpg even a little bit. So we're just going to move on from that one. It's fun. It's not fucking even a little bit true. And to me, that's just one of those like, look at how well researched I am on this thing that most people actually don't know about. But if you did your own research, then maybe you would find out that it is actually true. It's not. What about when it isn't? That's it. What about when it's not? Okay, let's move on to the next thing. The final conspiracy in the, wow, that's fun, conspiracy list on the Coping Tower and NBA Conspyramid. The Memphis statistician inflating Jaren Jackson Jr.'s numbers. Do you guys remember that one? That wasn't even that long ago. It was like, what, a year and a half, 2.5 years ago? I think we might have made a video on this channel about that. Just because at the time, I think maybe if I went back and watched it, I framed it as if it was actually true. But all I meant at the time was like, this is a fascinating story to be following. And it all stemmed from a guy on Reddit. That's all that it was. This was not Sports Illustrated, The Athletic coming. I say Sports Illustrated like they've been a dominant member in the media machine in the last like even 15 years. They fucking have not been relevant at all. They just generate like AI articles at this point. But it wasn't like a major publication dropping this bombshell. It was literally just a guy on Reddit, and he was like, fuck, I'm blowing the whistle on this whole operation. The Memphis Grizzlies statistician is recording more blocks than what Jaren Jackson Jr. is actually recording in order to propel him to this Defensive Player of the Year pedestal, which he didn't even need, by the way. And then you had the Kevin O'Connors of the world and the internet sleuths out there going possession by possession, watching every single Jaren Jackson Jr. defensive possession, checking his deflections, checking his steals, checking his blocks. No, everything was accounted for. That actually didn't end up being true at all. But goddamn, that was fun while it was happening in real time. We only got like 24 to 48 hours out of that one before it kind of got killed. And we were like, that actually definitely is not true at all. But it was really fun while it was happening in real time because it felt unprecedented and it felt like the consequences of it could be massive. It was a nothing burger at the end of the day. But it was fun. So now we move up to the next tier. Now we move up to the... oh, that for sure happened conspiracy list in the Coping Tower and NBA Conspyramid. Let's start with Blake Griffin's 2011 dunk contest victory. Yeah, this is the sort of famous, infamous, however you want to phrase it, dunk contest where Blake Griffin jumps over the hood of a Kia Altima, I believe is what it was. Nick, what is the conspiracy here? That the NBA rigged that shit because he was jumping over a corporate-sponsored car, and that Blake Griffin didn't even want to jump over a Kia, but the NBA was like, motherfucker, if you're going to jump over a car, you're going to jump over a Kia. And he's like, well, then I'm just going to jump over the hood, and like, who is it, Baron Davis can stick his head out of the thing. And it's like, okay. And then there was also, if you really get in the weeds about this, there's like an SB Nation article about this from what would have been about 13 years ago at this point, where the league put out like a press release before the dunk contest even happened, where they were like, yeah, Blake Griffin won the dunk contest. Everybody's like, the fuck? Like, huh? And then the NBA backpedaled and they were like, no, that was just a typo, like our bad. That shit was sealed and signed. She's not my level like Billie Jean, but the kid is mine. Stamped. Blake Griffin was always going to win that dunk contest. The same dunk contest, by the way, that JaVale McGee dunked 2 basketballs at the same time on 2 different hoops. Another Flintstone, by the way, Michigander. Sneaky was JaVale McGee robbed that year? I don't know, because at the end of the day, Blake Griffin is my king. I would do anything for him. A lot of, there's I don't know at this point how large the contingency is, but there are Pistons fans out there who hate Blake Griffin. I'll give the same spiel that I've given. Whoa, holy shit. I'm derailing. Okay, I'm so sorry to be doing this right now. We will get back to Blake Griffin. I'm going to live commentate this. The Bengals have the ball on the 1. It's 1st and goal, 46 seconds left. They're down by 8 points. Joe Burrow throws right. Jamar Chase, that is T. Higgins, drops the ball. That's going to be incomplete. I don't know what to do right now. I'm Malika Andrews calling an earthquake. Do I keep going on the Blake Griffin spiel and stay on this? Because it's only 2nd and goal. I'm going to keep an eye on this. People are still mad at Blake Griffin because he stopped playing games for Detroit and then just ate a bunch of money and then created a bunch of dead money once we actually bought him out. I'm going to say the same thing I always say, which is that he destroyed his body in order for us to actually get into the playoffs in 2018 and 2019. The best season that we've ever seen from, so the Bengals just scored a touchdown. We'll see if they get the 2-point conversion. He murdered his body for us, for you, Pistons fans. And he couldn't jump for the rest of his career and didn't dunk for literally 2.5 years until he eventually went to Brooklyn. But when we bought him out, he gave us back a lot of money. It could have been worse. You could have been like a Dwayne Dedman type character where I'm pretty sure we're still paying him. You could have been like a Josh Smith type character where we paid that motherfucker for 6 years just to not be on the team. You know what I mean? Is my math fucked up? I swear to God, they were down by 8. Okay, so it was 26-38. Wow, that's embarrassing. 'Cause I didn't even need to be doing this then. I totally murdered the flow of my... And they're still down by 5 with 40 seconds left. They have 1 timeout. This game's fucking over. I'm such a loser for even pretending that mattered. All right, let's stay with this, though. Let's stay with this. That for sure happened. Conspiracy tier list. We're still here. The Michael Jordan secret suspension. Yeah, you guys aren't going to convince me that that's not real. Through one or rather for one reason or another, Michael Jordan retiring from basketball, the story that they're going to tell you, that they're going to pitch to you, is that it was his dad that died, and Michael was like, I have a higher purpose, and I'm going to go play baseball because that's what my dad always wanted me to do, was to go play baseball. And people have hypothesized not only that it was, and this is a reckless thing for me to conspire about, but hey, we're 30 minutes into this, and again, it's just the nature of the show. I'm not saying this. This is just what people have said, that Michael Jordan is actually the one that got his dad killed because he got into so much debt that he fucking, I don't know, they whacked his dad because of all people, Michael Jordan wouldn't pay off his gambling debts. It's so funny to say that. It's not funny. Fucking yes, it is. Who cares? It's funny to say that. It's just no way that that's what it is. But the league was like, okay, we have a problem on our hands. Our most profitable and marketable star is a fucking degenerate gambler. What are we supposed to do about this? Well, let's use his dad passing away as a vehicle to get him the fuck out of the league. Michael, go do something else for a year and a half, for 2 years. Go pretend to care about something else. And that's exactly what he did. He went and played baseball, and he sucked at it. It's just as bad as he sucked at basketball. And then he ended up coming back to the league and winning, 3 more championships? Whoops. Won 3 more championships. There's a lot more I could go into about this, but at this point, it's one of the oldest conspiracies in the NBA that it was a stealth suspension by the NBA that he wasn't allowed to play. But okay, if you at this point you know about it. But even then, if I'm doing conspiracies that everybody knows about, I can talk about that for sure happened conspiracies. Yeah, the 1984 frozen envelope, bent corner, whatever you want to call it, Patrick Ewing draft, where the Knicks win the lottery, and Patrick Ewing, the semi-hometown kid, goes to the hometown team of the commissioner of the NBA, David Stern. A market at the time that had been struggling for a while. They just needed somebody to come in and reinvigorate the franchise and really give them that punch. At the time, New York was a huge market. I say New York was a huge market. There's the biggest market in the world. But at the time, you needed to capitalize on that market. And then the Knicks sucked. You got this guy coming out of Georgetown. So the story is like the guy who spun the little thing with all the envelopes in it. He was an accountant, but the firm that he worked for was the same firm that owned the New York Knicks at the time. Again, David Stern was a New York Knicks fan. So some people hypothesize he was like spinning the little thing like way harder than what people usually do, right? That they froze the envelope so that David Stern knew which one to grab when he reached in there. Some people say if you go back and watch the video, he the envelope kind of got banged against the side of the thing. So that way Stern would know which one has the bent corner. Oh, okay, so that's the Knicks one. I got to pick them. And then they get Patrick Ewing. And then Patrick Ewing goes to the Knicks. Guess what? Sure, they kind of returned to some sort of cultural relevance. They had some fun years in the mid-'90s, namely when Michael Jordan was serving his fake suspension playing baseball. You had the John Starks and the Patrick Ewings of the world going out there, fucking shit up. Getting shit on by Reggie Miller, by the way. Choke. Fuckers. And Patrick Ewing never won them a championship. It didn't happen. It never happened. But it remains to this day probably the most that just happened, right? Like that is just what happened at the Knicks. That was rigged. We could do the thing every year where we're like, oh, well, like nobody even, it's crazy. The Hawks had like the same chances of winning the lottery this year as the Pelicans did in 2019. We had a whole conspiracy about that. But it's like we didn't conspire about, why did the Hawks win the lottery this year? Because nobody fucking cared. Because there was nobody of consequence at the top of the draft. Where in other years, when there's a Patrick Ewing up there, when there's a Zion Williamson up there, it's really easy for us to go in that mode. You know what I mean? And I think it's just it's another reflection of just how easy it is for us to fall into that conspiracy trap. As fun as it may be, we're usually wrong about it. But if there's any NBA lottery where I think we're all just kind of like, that just happened. It's the 1980, or I keep saying 1984. I believe it was the 1985 draft with Patrick Ewing. Yeah, I mean, that just hashtag happened. But that was it for that for sure happened conspiracy. Now, a lot of you are looking at the top here, for those of you who have been looking at the graphic for this entire episode, and you're like, Nick, get to it. Get to it. Top of the Conspyramid is nuclear conspiracy. There's only one in there. And that's that the Pistons didn't want Jaden Ivey. Now, look, Pistons fans, don't aggregate this. Don't post this on Reddit. I don't know anything. I don't know. I'm just a guy. I've heard this story twice from two different people that don't know each other. Over the last, when was Jaden Ivey drafted? 3 years ago at this point? I don't know. But at some point, this story has to be told. And I don't otherwise know when it will be told. And I have no reason not to tell you guys this now. So the Pistons went into draft night with one plan. They had one goal in mind. And that was to draft Jalen Duren. That was their guy. And they knew where they were going to be able to get him. And they knew going into the draft that they had the 5th pick. It was valuable at the time, right? Right before us was Keegan Murray. Right after us was Benedict Mathurin. Hey, Jaden Ivey was there at 5. There was value at the top of the draft. So the Pistons go into it expecting to shop that pick. I think it was like the Wizards were picking 9th or 10th. You know, maybe the Knicks were up there too, somewhere in there. But I believe it was the Wizards. So eventually when Keegan Murray gets drafted by Sacramento, the Pistons have to make a decision. They're on the phone. Troy Weaver is in the war room with guys like Arn Tellem and, all his little cronies. And they get a call. There's a deal on the table with the Washington Wizards that they want Jaden Ivey. All they got to do, as the Pistons, is draft him, and they will iron things out by the time that the Wizards make their pick, right? And that will allow the Pistons to trade back and get Jalen Duren and then stuff, whatever else was going to be offered to them, right? The version that was told to me was that the Pistons make that pick, and at the time, there was a live watch party that was happening at Little Caesars Arena. The place went fucking ballistic when we drafted Jaden Ivey. Because even if at the time I was a Keegan Murray guy and I was a Ben Math guy, again, we got sandwiched, and the guy that I didn't want was right in the middle. Sorry if me bumping the mic made a noise there, is exactly who we got. But on consensus, I'd be lying if I said that the fan base wasn't ecstatic that we drafted Jaden Ivey, because his mom played for the Shock. Didn't he? Right? Or I'm sorry, didn't she? Right? The guy was a Big Ten star. There was what was not to love. You get this explosive 2-guard to pair with Cade. Everybody was ecstatic. Troy's in the war room, and he sees this happen. They're seeing the reaction on social media. A franchise, by the way, that has been desolate and without fan support for a while because of what we have seen from them. And there's just the sheer, I've given up on them. I'm not interested in this anymore. And it reinvigorated them. And they see Jaden Ivey getting drafted, the fans do rather, and it excites them. They feel like they have a reason to continue to watch this team because the team has building blocks. Meanwhile, Troy Weaver has no intention of keeping this guy because he's going to send his ass to Washington. So Troy Weaver takes his guys out in the hall, and they make a decision. They say, well, we could make this deal. Was it Charlotte that we ended up making a deal with like the 13th, 14th pick to go get Jalen Duren? We got this deal on the table, and it allows us to keep Jaden Ivey, and we can go get Jalen Duren. In this way, if we keep Jaden Ivey, the fans are happy. If it goes well, all right, we look like geniuses because we have Ivey and we have Duren, right? We have the fan support and the guy that we wanted coming out of this draft. What if it doesn't work? Flip his ass. We don't care. We'll send him off for parts. We don't care. We'll trade him. Oh, it didn't work. That's too bad. We took a big swing and it didn't work out. That's fine. We still got the guy that we wanted, who we know was going to be an NBA player in Jalen Duren, which, by the way, that part of it still seems to be working out. They didn't want his ass. That's the version of events that was told to me. Again, twice by two different people who did not know each other. I don't know anything. I'm just the messenger here. I'm not saying any of this. Don't listen to me. Don't aggregate it. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that's true. That regime's gone, by the way. The guys who drafted him are no longer in the building. Sans like an Arn Tellem, right? He's still there. So you just wonder, what does Trajan Langdon think of the guy? We'll have to see. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Coping Tower, an NBA Conspyramid. What do you guys think? Thoughts, questions, concerns? You guys can let me know if you want which ones I left off of the list. Like, a soft one that I wanted to put on there, but I just didn't really know where to put it, was LeBron taking HGH for his entire career. Because, like, who really cares? That's another one of those ones where if the league came out, it's like the Wilt 100-point game. The league comes out tomorrow, and they're like, hey, we found out that LeBron has been taking human growth hormones for the last 20 years. What's your reaction to that? Because you're probably just going to be like, yeah, what else? Yeah, you know what I mean? Okay. You think this guy's just been the healthiest that any player has ever been in the history of basketball, any sport, honestly, playing a career that spans 2 decades. The guy's never suffered a major injury. He rolls his ankle. Jeff Teague on his podcast, like semi-recently, was telling a story about how LeBron completely rolled his ankle. It was like going the opposite way. And he just kind of like cracked his neck and was like, he just played the rest of the game. Jeff Teague was like, the fuck? Like, huh? HGH. But it's also like, yeah, but we're almost just kind of in open secret territory there. Is an open secret still conspiracy? I don't think so. Because then there's a possibility that it isn't true. I think it is, because 2 things can be true here. He's on drugs and is also the most well-conditioned and most well-oiled machine that we've ever seen in professional basketball, ever. Both of those things can be true, even if the drugs probably play a hand in it. You know what I mean? But I'm also the same guy who doesn't care when baseball players take steroids. That doesn't matter to me. You want a baseball conspiracy? I don't think the Shohei gambling allegations will ever leave him. I don't care how good he is. I don't care how much I love him. My girlfriend brings it up all the time. She's like, he's a fucking criminal. One of you guys sent in an email about it the other day. It was like your PS at the end of the email. I apologize. I don't remember what the email was. But at the end of it, you were like, hey, by the way, Shohei 100% gambled like all of his life savings and then like made his interpreter take the fall for it. Maybe. Guess what? Major League Baseball, we talk about a league's most profitable and marketable star. They were not going to let anything happen to their golden boy. We may never know, honestly. The version of events that was explained to us may very well be true. They did a very convincing job communicating that to the public. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but the playbook was very, very clear. And when Shohei came out and he did that initial press conference with his new translator, Ipe Mizuhara, is he in jail right now? I don't know. But he came out with his new translator. Shohei sounded upset. He sounded fired up, and he sounded like he was betrayed. So either it was one of the best acting jobs that we've seen from an athlete since Kareem in fucking Airplane, or maybe like LeBron in Trainwreck. I don't know. That new Steph show is pretty damn good. Was it Mr. Throwback? The show's sneaky fucking funny. Like, don't shit on it just because it's like, oh, Steph is in a show on Peacock. It's like weirdly fucking hilarious. I don't know. Shohei did a really convincing job if he was lying. So that's it, folks. What do you guys think? All right, that's probably going to do it. Hey, for Monday's episode, I'm going to let you guys know this up top. There's a non-zero chance. If I get this out right now, I will feel less guilty if this is what ends up happening on Monday. It may end up serving as like a travel log for me on like some real Ryan Russillo shit for like me just going home, going back to Michigan. I might just spend an hour talking to you guys about what I did over the weekend and me getting like fucked up in East Lansing, going to the Michigan State, Ohio State game. I've never gone to a college football game where I was able to like actually like do the tailgate stuff and like get drunk before the game. It's a primetime game. Folks, Michigan State, Ohio State happening on Saturday. Please tune into that game. All right? We will be getting dropped off, losing by 3, maybe 4 scores. But I don't know. Enjoy the experience with me because I'm going to be like 12 hot dogs and a couple dozen beers deep. I don't know. Maybe I'll have some Jello shots or something. I've always wanted to try Jello shots. Still never gotten to do it, but I figure being in East Lansing, being on a college campus, you know, you walk past a sorority house, a frat house. They got some darties going on. Surely there's some Jello shots going on. maybe I can get into those. I'm going to have an awesome day. I'm going to have an electric day. And then outside of that, we're just going to have an awesome time being home, like hanging out with family and just like also getting some relief from being parents, which has easily been the hardest thing for all you parents out there. You know, your first couple of months, the relief that you feel when somebody comes over to like help and they're like really helpful, you know, and you're like, oh, thank God. Like we can just breathe and you know what I mean? Like you're taking things out of not like out of our control, but you're taking over for us for a little bit. We're really excited for that because it'll give us, we're there, Wednesday through Sunday. So it'll give us a couple days to just really lock in and just reset and just relax. And we'll be surrounded by people that we love. And I think for both of us mentally, I think we need that a lot right now, is to have like a real strong support system. Because it's the one damn thing that's so hard about being out here in Chicago is we just don't have anyone. My brother lives here. He lives here and it's great. And we get to see him every once in a while, but like, we're not going to ask him to come over to like take care of our son. Like that's not his job. And that's not something, it's not that he wouldn't be comfortable with it, but you know what I mean? Like, that's just not something we're going to ask of him. We're like, that's like a grandparent job. And so that's what we're going to be doing. I'll actually get to meet, I don't know if I've told you guys about this, but my sister had her third kid a month before we had ours, and it was her first son. So I will get to meet, we're going to, meet up with her at some point this week. And so I'll get to finally meet my new nephew, and then she'll get to meet her first nephew. This is the first time that she's become an aunt because of us. Shout out to us. I'm still just, Grandma, plug your ears. I don't want to, I don't know how to say this without being a little bit like, well, no, I can, you know what? I can be mature. Grandma, you can keep your ears open. I'm still just kind of shocked that this is a weird thing for me to talk about. I don't want to do this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I said it wasn't going to be an hour, and damn it, it's not, but you guys got another episode this week. I apologize for it. We'll be back on Monday with a nice fiery episode of the Coping Hour. If you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you are listening to this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. What if I just sat here for the next 13 minutes and just waited for this to get to an hour and I just sat here in silence? Could I fill the next 13 minutes with no plan? If I was Malika Andrews calling an earthquake, like what would I do right now? I would catch you guys in the next one.